I swear, the moment she dropped that line, "We're basically married," something inside me snapped, like a glass cracking under too much pressure. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to Family Tales by Ethan so you never miss out on these fascinating stories. And let us know what you're watching today in the comments. That sentence was the spark that lit the fuse, but the truth is, everything had already been simmering long before that night in my apartment. My name's Ethan Parker, and what I'm about to tell you is the first part of a story I never thought I'd live through. Something that started off like a normal relationship and slowly unraveled into something almost surreal. It began innocently, really. I met Maya Collins on Hinge in early January. She was beautiful, soft brown eyes, a bright laugh, a kind of energy that pulled people in. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized firm in Chicago, while I was a software developer who liked my quiet routines and predictable days. We weren't extraordinary people, just two adults trying to figure life out. Stumbling into what felt like a promising connection point 4 months in, I thought we were pacing at something reasonable. We were seeing each other a few times a week, alternating between my apartment and hers, meeting each other's friends, sending the usual late-night memes, and made you think of you texts. Nothing too deep, nothing too rushed. It felt normal, if there's such a thing as comfortable progress. We were in it. Then came that Tuesday. I remember it clearly. The smell of garlic butter in the pan, the soft hiss of chicken searing on the stove, the low hum of music drifting from my speaker. Maya walked into my apartment quieter than usual. She wasn't the type to sit silently or scroll her phone without commentary, so immediately, something felt off. "You good?" I asked, stirring the pasta. She didn't look up. "Yeah, just had an interesting day." When I pressed, she finally set her phone down and said it with a casualness that didn't match the gravity of the words. "I quit my job." At first, I thought she meant a 2-week notice. Something under control, something reasonable. But no, she'd walked out during lunch, handed in nothing, explained nothing, and left. I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying. Did something happen? Was there, I don't know, harassment or something? No, nothing like that. I just wasn't happy. It wasn't fulfilling me. We all want fulfilling work, sure. But quitting mid-shift without a plan? The ground under me shifted a little. "So, what's the plan now?" I asked. That's when she smiled, bright, relieved, almost triumphant. "I want to take time to figure out what I really want to do. Maybe online courses. Maybe explore something totally new. However long it takes." My instinct told me to slow down, to understand the missing pieces. Especially when she started listing her expenses, rent, car, insurance, tallying up to nearly $3,000 a month. I assumed she'd saved something. Most people wouldn't make that decision without a financial cushion. But she said it in the most relaxed tone. "So that's the thing. I don't really have savings. Not much, anyway." I froze. "Okay then. You'd need to find something soon, right?" That was when her eyes lifted to mine, steady and almost expectant. "Actually, I was hoping you could help me. Just for now. Cover my expenses until I figure things out." I laughed. Honest, confused laughter. Not to be cruel. The request was just absurd. "Maya, we've been dating 4 months. I'm not paying your bills." Her face shifted instantly, like I'd flipped a switch. "You're serious right now?" "Yes," I told her. "You quit without a plan. That's your decision. But I'm not responsible for it." Her voice softened, pleading, but wrapped in accusation. "I thought we were building something. I thought you cared." "I do," I said. "But caring isn't the same as becoming financially responsible for someone." Then came the line, the one that would echo in my head for weeks afterward. "We're basically married." I choked on my own breath. Married? We hadn't even defined exclusivity formally, let alone talked about living together or finances. She crossed her arms with a kind of stubborn confidence. "We practically live together anyway. You're supposed to support your partner." "Maya," I said quietly, "we're not married. We aren't engaged. We haven't talked about shared finances or long-term plans. You can't quit your job and expect me to just cover your life." Her voice cracked into something sharp. "I can't believe how selfish you're being." She stormed out seconds later, leaving her half-eaten pasta on the counter and my apartment feeling emptier than it had in months. I sat there for nearly 20 minutes, staring at the door, replaying every word, every shift in her tone, the way entitlement slid into the conversation like it had always been waiting for a chance to show itself. And somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of it, not even close. I woke up the next morning expecting things to feel calmer, maybe lighter. They didn't. The air in my apartment felt thick, like her accusations still lingered somewhere between the walls. I brewed coffee, sat on the edge of my couch, and tried to replay the night without getting lost in the mess of emotions she'd left behind. Part of me wondered if she would cool down, text an apology, or at least try to talk like an adult. She did text, but not with an apology. At 8:12 a.m. My phone buzzed. "I'm sorry for getting upset. Can we talk?" It seemed promising at first, but I'd already felt the shift inside her last night. Something about her reaction wasn't just impulsive, it was entitled. So when I called her, I tried to set boundaries right away, hoping it would defuse the situation. "Look, Maya," I said gently. "I get that you hated your job, but quitting without a plan and then expecting me to cover your bills, that's not realistic." Her sigh came through the phone like a scripted moment. "I'm not asking forever, just until I figure things out." "How long is until?" "I don't know. That's the point." "Then get any job while you figure out the rest. Something part-time. Something temporary." There was a long pause, too long. Then she said the words that solidified everything for me. "Those jobs are beneath me." I sat there, stunned and suddenly aware that she and I were not living on the same planet. "Your degree doesn't pay your rent, Maya," I said quietly. "A paycheck does. If you cared about me, money wouldn't matter." That was when the last thread snapped. "Maya, we've been dating for 4 months. I'm not in love with you." The silence on her end felt like a weight pressing into my chest. Then she hung up. I thought that was it. I thought she'd take the hint. But 2 days later, while I was buried in work, my phone buzzed again. Not a text. A Venmo request. $2, 800, April expenses. "Thanks, babe." I stared at it like it was a joke, like she was pranking me. But no, she meant it. I declined. Seconds later, my phone exploded with messages. "Why did you decline? You know I need this. Rent is due in 3 days. You're really going to let me be homeless?" I rubbed my eyes, leaning back in my chair. The office around me felt suddenly too loud. "Maya, I'm not paying your bills. We talked about this." Her responses grew more frantic, more manipulative, more pointed. She started calling, once, twice, 17 times in a row, until I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Even then, the texts kept coming. "You're abandoning me. You said you cared. You're just like my ex. My mom was right about you." That last one made me exhale sharply. She hadn't even introduced me to her mom. I muted her, but she didn't stop. Her best friend, Caroline, texted next. "Hey, she's having a really hard time. Can you please just help her out? She quit her job with no plan." I replied, "That's not my responsibility. She thought you guys were serious. She thought she could rely on you." "For rent?" After 4 months. Her friend sent one last message. "Wow. Heartless." Before I blocked her too. Why then? I chalked the whole thing up to desperation. People panic. They act irrationally when they're afraid. I understood that. I wasn't completely heartless, but nothing prepared me for the moment I got home from work 2 days later. She was sitting on the curb outside my apartment building with a suitcase, the full-sized, overstuffed, ready to move in suitcase. My stomach dropped. "Maya, what are you doing here?" She looked up with red, puffy eyes that might have been from crying, or might have been from practicing crying. "My roommate kicked me out. She said if I couldn't pay rent, I had to leave. I don't have anywhere to go, so I'm here." I blinked, stunned. "You can't stay here. Where else am I supposed to go?" Her voice cracked strategically, like she'd rehearsed it. "You're my boyfriend. You're supposed to help me. Maya, we're not together anymore." That sentence hit her like a splash of cold water. "You're breaking up with me because I need help?" "No. I'm breaking up with you because you made a life-altering decision, expected me to fund it, and now you're showing up at my apartment with a suitcase. We barely know each other." She started crying, loud, messy, dramatic, until it drew stares from people walking their dogs, grabbing groceries, heading up the sidewalk. I already felt judged, painted as the villain in a story I wasn't even sure I understood anymore. "You have options," I told her quietly. "Your mom, a friend's couch, a cheap room somewhere. My mom lives in Arizona, and my friends are busy. You're all I have." Her sobbing grew louder, and I'll admit it. I cracked. Something about the spectacle, the desperation, the very human fear in her voice. I gave in. 3 days, I said. You can stay for 3 days. Couch only. And you spend every hour applying for jobs. The crying stopped instantly. Thank you, baby. I knew you still cared. That should have been a warning. The first night, she ordered a $50 Thai dinner to my apartment. You get this, right? I'll pay you back when I'm working. No, I said. You need to eat cheap until you're stable. Her expression twisted like I'd insulted her entire bloodline. She made ramen. With attitude. The next day, I left for work early and texted her. Apply to real jobs today. Seriously. When I got home, she was sprawled on my couch wearing my hoodie, eating my snacks, surrounded by empty water bottles like a nest. How'd the job hunt go? I asked. Good. I applied to a bunch. Which ones? She got defensive immediately. Why do I have to prove it? Because you're staying here for free. Reluctantly, she pulled out her laptop. No job tabs. Just Netflix, Instagram, and a BuzzFeed quiz. You didn't apply to anything. I was doing research. Pack your stuff. What? It's almost 7. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know. But not here. Her tears returned. Louder. Wetter. But I didn't budge. Eventually, she packed, dragging the process out with dramatic pauses, sighs, and pitiful glances meant to pierce my resolve. The door. She turned one last time. You're really throwing me out? With nowhere to go. You made choices, Maya. And you lied. That's on you. She left with a glare that burned through me. That night, I locked every door, changed my streaming passwords, and sat in the quiet, hoping, praying, that this would be the end. It wasn't. Not even close. I wish I could tell you that after she walked out of my apartment that night, suitcase trailing behind her, everything calmed down, that she disappeared from my life like a storm drifting off into the distance. But storms don't always fade quietly. Some double back. Some gather strength. Some come crashing in louder, messier, and far more destructive than before. For 2 days, things were silent. No texts. No calls. No friends messaging me on her behalf. No Venmo requests. I started to think maybe she had finally accepted reality. Maybe she'd found somewhere to stay, found a job, or found someone else to lean on. I wasn't hoping for her failure. I just wanted peace. But peace wasn't coming. On a Wednesday evening, I arrived home from work and found 2 police officers talking to my doorman. Their uniforms alone made my pulse spike. When they saw me, they approached with an unsettling calm. Are you Ethan Parker? Yes, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We received a report from a woman, Maya Collins, accusing you of illegally evicting her and stealing her belongings. My heart sank straight to the floor. She had escalated hard. They followed me upstairs. I let them inspect my apartment, every room, every closet, every drawer. I wasn't nervous because there was nothing to find. She had left with all her things. But the fact that she filed a false report told me something important. She wasn't just desperate anymore. She was vindictive. One of the officers flipped through the texts on my phone, her Venmo requests, the messages about helping her. The proof that she was never on my lease, never a tenant, never entitled to my space. The older officer sighed. This is unfounded. But I'll be honest, she's escalating. Document everything. If she keeps this up, you may need a restraining order. I thanked them, shut the door, and leaned against it, feeling the weight of something I hadn't prepared for. Breakups are supposed to hurt, sure, but they aren't supposed to spiral into legal falsehoods. 2 days later, my doorman called me around 5 p.m. Ethan. She's here again. In the lobby. Claims she lives in your apartment. She's yelling. Should I call the police? Yes, I said immediately. He did. They escorted her out. The next morning, I filed a formal trespass notice with the building. She was banned. No entry. No exceptions. But she didn't stop. She simply changed tactics. The following week, my boss called me into his office. My stomach twisted into a knot. I'd been performing well, no issues. So why the meeting? He closed the door, folded his hands, and exhaled with something like amusement. So, I received an email. A harassment complaint. What? From your ex. She says you create a hostile environment for women, that you're manipulative, controlling, financially abusive, her words. I felt the room tilt slightly, not from guilt, but from disbelief. She doesn't even work here, I said. I know, he replied. And don't worry. I'm rejecting it. But document everything. She seems intense. Intense. That was one word for it. Later that night, I received a long email, this time from her mother. A dramatic essay accusing me of ruining her daughter's future and emotionally manipulating her into quitting her job, which never happened. She claimed they were exploring legal action for damages. I forwarded the email to my brother, who worked as a paralegal. The next day, he had a lawyer draft a cease and desist letter. We sent it certified to both Maya and her mother for the first time in a while. The messages stopped. 4 whole days of silence that IT felt like the first breath of fresh air after weeks underwater. Then a Venmo notification hit my phone. $8 for 100. Back pay for 3 months of emotional labor plus housing support you promised. I declined it instantly. Screenshotted everything. Saved it. Things continued to spiral. She made Instagram posts painting herself as the victim of an abusive man, implying I had used her for months and then cast her aside when she needed help. Half the comments praised her. The other half called her out, clearly knowing the truth. She deleted the post within an hour, but the damage was done. Mutual acquaintances began messaging me. She's telling people you financially manipulated her. She's saying you tormented her psychologically. At some point, I stopped responding. I just added every screenshot to the growing folder I'd labeled evidence for court. Then came the breaking point. One morning, I stopped by the coffee shop I'd been going to for 3 years, ordered my usual, stood in line, and then I felt a presence behind me. Felt it before I saw it. When I turned, Maya was standing there, eyes blazing, jaw tight with fury. "There he is," she shouted. "The man who ruined my life." The entire cafe froze. I kept my voice low. "I'm not doing this with you. You can't even look at me? You promised to support me. You promised." "Maya, I never promised you anything. Leave." A barista stepped in. "Ma'am, you need to go or I'm calling the police. He emotionally abused me." She yelled. "He owes me money." The barista didn't even react. "Out. Now." She stormed out, shaking, humiliated. I apologized to the barista, who shrugged. Yeah. Yikes. That's one word for it. I filed another police report. The officer who took it told me bluntly, "You need that restraining order. She's escalating." My brother helped me file. The court date was set. The hearing itself was surreal. She arrived with her mother and a binder full of printed screenshots of early, romantic text messages. "See? He said he cared about me. That's a promise," she told the judge. The judge looked exhausted. "Ma'am, that's called dating." Then he reviewed my binder, 2 inches thick, of everything she'd done: the false reports, the harassment, the trespassing, the outbursts, the Venmo requests, the threats, the scenes in public. It took 15 minutes for the judge to make his decision. Restraining order granted. 1 year. No contact. 100 yards minimum distance. She burst into tears, dramatic and loud, clinging to her mother, who glared at me like I'd destroyed their world. The judge warned her mother to stop unless she wanted the order extended to her as well. That was the last time I saw Maya, or at least I thought it would be. 2 weeks later, I received a message request from a random guy on Instagram. "Hey man, weird question, but did you date someone named Maya Collins?" My stomach dropped. "Yeah." "What?" "I've gone on 3 dates with her. Tonight she told me she's thinking about quitting her job to find her passion and asked if I'd be okay helping her with expenses while she figures things out. We met 10 days ago." My chest tightened with a mix of disbelief and a strange, weary relief. I sent him a screenshot of the restraining order. "Run." He responded immediately. "Holy crap. Thank you." Blocking her now. Turns out, she had a pattern. A co-worker of hers later told me she'd done the same thing to another man before me. Her manager, no less. Quit, demanded support, then filed a complaint when he refused. A cycle. A trap. 1 I walked into unknowingly, but thankfully escaped before it destroyed my life. It's been quiet since I've changed coffee shops, updated routines, told neighbors and co-workers. Life feels normal again. Peaceful, steady, and, most importantly, mind that I'm seeing someone new now. Slowly, cautiously. She has her own place, her own job, her own life. We split bills on dates. She laughed when I vaguely mentioned my previous situation. "That's insane," she said. "Expecting someone else to pay for their life? That's so entitled." Yeah, it was. This whole experience taught me things I didn't know I needed to learn. that boundaries aren't cold, they're necessary, that financial independence isn't just attractive, it's essential, that for months, with someone is barely enough time to understand who they really are, that love, or what feels like love, should never come with invoices, and that I'm not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to fix themselves. That if Maya ever reads this, I don't hate you. I don't wish you pain. But I hope you finally realize that no one, no boyfriend, no friend, no stranger, is responsible for your bills, your choices, or your life. That you're almost 30. You're capable. You can stand on your own 2 feet. As for me, this chapter is finally closed, for good.